we meet at a hinge moment in the China-US relationship. I hope the two sides will work together to focus on cooperation, manage our differences, and make sure there is a smooth transition.
You're watching RT International live from Moscow with me, Nadira Tudor. Welcome to the programme. We start with breaking news this hour. Russia's Minister of Economic Development has been detained over accusations of corruption. RT's Ilya Petrenko has more details for us. Ilya, what are the accusations?
Nadira, hi again. Well, we understand that a criminal case has been opened, and if this really develops into a fully fledged persecution of Alexei Ulukhaev, who is Russia's economics development minister, that is really going to be a very big deal in this country, a major corruption scandal, and the minister could end up facing from 8 to 15 years behind bars. Now, according to Russia's investigative committee, the reason for this detention is that Mr. Ulukhaev is suspected of receiving a $2 million bribe for, quote, a positive assessment to allow the privatization of the Bashneft oil company. Now, to be precise, this is allowing Russia's oil giant Rosneft to buy 50% of Bashneft's state-owned shares. The press secretary of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, has already commented on that, saying that the accusations are very serious, so they require a thorough investigation, but everything will be up for the court to decide. Now, this could be part of Russia's wider crackdown on corruption. Just this year alone, we've seen arrests of top officials, including 3 governors and also a senior police official, after more than $100 million in cash were found in his apartment. But of course, the detention of a federal minister is something unprecedented.
Russia stepping up its war on corruption just a day after the arrest of the Minister of Economic Development on charges of bribery. New scandals are hitting the headlines. Emily Sue has the latest.
The anti-graft campaign in Russia is an ongoing one, and the biggest case was yesterday when the country's economic development minister was arrested and officially charged for accepting a $2 million bribe. Now, Alexei Ulukhaev has denied all charges and pleaded not guilty, even though he was reportedly caught red-handed accepting the bribe to endorse a state takeover. President Putin has already dismissed Ulukhaev from his post, citing the loss of trust. And here's what the Prime Minister had to say about his case.
What happened once again confirms the immutable conclusion that absolutely everyone, including any representative of authority, whatever position he may hold, is equal before the law. The final point in the whole of this process, as well as in the guilt or innocence of a former government member, should be made by the court.
Amid the backdrop of Ulukhaev's case, 3 new anti-corruption probes have emerged. The first one involves a public company called the Helicopters of Russia over the embezzlement of funds. The second one is in the region of Kemerovo, where 3 senior officials have been arrested over possible extortion of funds up to $15 million. The stakes of the last case are even higher. The director of a pharmaceutical company and a small-town mayor are being accused of embezzling up to $15 million from technology giant Rosnano. Now, judging on all these recent developments, looks like Ulukhaev's case is only the beginning of the country's wider anti-graft campaign.
I want you to keep in mind the most important thing, period. At this moment in our history, in order to establish or to defeat a one-world government, the Russian constitution is the key factor. The group of people who will have the total control over the Russian constitution, that group will be the boss of this world. Whether you agree or disagree, but real facts speak louder than anything else. Putin's backed political party has won the Russian election. That means Putin has crossed the red line. Immediately after the Russian election, scenario number 2 has started unfolding in Russia. In this video, I want to share very important information with you guys, which in my view clearly shows that something huge is about to happen in Russia. Okay, let's connect the dots to paint a full picture in our minds. We have two key things which will happen very soon. Those two things will be the trigger to start a global chaos. I am talking about a referendum in Italy. According to some analysts, it will have at least 5 times bigger financial impact than Brexit had. The second thing that will be the trigger for the global chaos, it will be the interest rate raise by the Federal Reserve in December. All those political things in the United States and in Russia that I was talking about in my previous videos has started unfolding, and this video will prove that to you. When Obama is signing off all kinds of executive orders which will allow Obama to establish a martial law inside the US, we have unprecedented protests against Trump becoming the US president. This protest is taking place in Los Angeles. And also we have many other places on this map where people are taking to the streets to protest Donald Trump becoming the US president. Will Obama establish a martial law before the new year? That time will show us that. Last year the United States targeted the Russian president Vladimir Putin, along with the assets of other Russian officials and businessmen. At that time we warned that Putin will take action not to lose the fight to the United States elite. In my previous video, I was talking about 3 scenarios for the whole world. Clearly scenario number 2 is unfolding in front of everyone's eyes, when Putin's backed political party has won the Russian election back in September. In my video, I was talking about that Putin will start cleaning up the Russian political system from the 5th column. Or in simple terms, Putin will start destroying people who work for Washington. Those people have been put to very high positions within the Russian government apparatus. And Putin has started cleaning up the Russian political system. All those strange things like Brexit, military coup in Turkey that are happening all around the world are directly and indirectly related to the collapse of the old control system and the collapse of the global financial order. This is leading to I am talking about petrodollar system collapse. Every negative event that took place in Turkey, in France, in China, this is the scenario of the beginning of the biggest collapse in our history. As the things around the world are getting really hot, I advise to listen carefully what Obama and other world leaders are saying in the mainstream media. If you read between the lines, those leaders are giving indirect, sometimes hard to understand warnings and threats to each other. What we're witnessing is that the stage is being set for martial law globally. This is the last step by the Illuminati before the dollar collapse and WW3, which will start in Russia, in Syria, in North Korea, in the South China Sea, roughly at the same time. Everything seems to be lining up. All the recent movement of the military vehicles, all those videos on YouTube on UN vehicles put in different places in the United States, the potential global economic collapse which will start in Europe this year, referendum in Italy in December, countries in Europe telling to their citizens to prepare for something big, but they wouldn't tell us what is about to happen, FBI warning of a major event, preparation for martial law and riots in the US, and this not usual warning test of the United States national broadcast system. Not to mention the election inside the United States that will change this world forever. When Belgium has provided the radiation protection pills to its citizens, We have German, Finnish and Czech Republic governments warning its citizens to stock up on food, water, medicine and other essential supplies for at least 10 to 30 days. When we have the missile defense shields active on both sides on this map, we have 40 million people in Russia taking part in the biggest drill, together with 200,000 professional rescue units and 50,000 vehicles. Why the whole country was training to go to bunkers during October 4th to October 7th? 40 million people who live in Russia, including all levels of the Russian government apparatus, was participating in a civil defense emergency drill. The civil defense team will train for man-made disaster, radiation, chemical and biological protection. While the Russian ministry does not specify what kind of man-caused disaster it envisions, it would have to be a substantial one. For 40 million Russians to take part in the emergency preparedness drill. It is clear that Russia has held its biggest nuclear war drill since the end of the Cold War. Protect those countries from immigrants. Let me ask you, what immigrants? This is a cover story for something much bigger. Authorities in Norway have decided to build a fence at the only checkpoint on the border with Russia, in a bid to prevent a new wave of immigrants crossing. Baltic states have been building an enormous 250-mile-long fence along Europe's eastern border with Russia, in a desperate bid to hold back the immigrant influx. Latvia has built a fence on its border with Russia in order to protect against illegal immigrants entering the European Union. Great Ukrainian Wall. Kiev has spent $200 million on Russian border defense. It is clear that those countries bordering with Russia are building those security fences in the place where WW3 is about to start. What is the point to spend nearly $500 million on the border?
The privatization of the Bashneft oil company. Now, to be precise, this is allowing Russia's oil giant Rosneft to buy 50% of Bashneft's state-owned shares. The press secretary of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, has already commented on that, saying that the accusations are very serious, a major corruption scandal, and the minister could end up facing from 8 to 15 years behind bars. Now, according to Russia's investigative committee, the reason for this detention is that Mr. Ulukayev is suspected of receiving a $2 million bribe for, quote, a positive assessment to allow.
For us, Ilya, what are the accusations?
That you're high again. Well, we understand that a criminal case has been opened, and if this really develops into a fully fledged persecution of Alexei Ulukayev, who is Russia's economics development minister, that is really going to be a very big deal in this country.
You're watching RT International live from Moscow with me, Nadira Tudor. Welcome to the programme. We start with breaking news this hour. Russia's Minister of Economic Development has been detained over accusations of corruption. RT's Ilya Petrenko has more details.
We meet at a hinge moment in the China-US relationship. I hope the two sides will work together to focus on cooperation, manage our differences, and make sure there is a smooth transition